Hello, and thanks for joining us for our PLC webinar, Math Mysteries. This is Jennifer Grams from Meter Consulting, and I'm joined by my colleague, Kathy Schick, as well as our guest presenter, Lisa Hughes, math coach from Reading Muhlenberg Career Technical Center. Go ahead, Kathy.
Good morning, Jen. Hi, everyone. This is Kathy, and as Jen said, we're so excited to have Lisa Hughes with us. Thank you so much for your flexibility to all of our PLC members for this year. I know Jen joins me in apologizing on behalf of Mother Nature. Pennsylvania took a pretty big hit this winter, and we do apologize for the few webinars that we had to reschedule or do in different ways. It was just really difficult. And as a culminating result of the weather, we just found a few of you were emailing and saying that the snow days really took a hit on your NOCTI prep time and that it is NOCTI season. So we hope that this format is more flexible for you. And as we record this today in Pennsylvania, at least in my part of Pennsylvania, it's sunny and beautiful with a call for 1 to 3 inches of snow tomorrow. So that figures, right? Okay, well, Lisa, we are so glad to have you with us, and we really appreciate all your hard work. We're going to switch screens now so that we move over to Lisa's presentation, so you'll see that possibly happening on your screen. And as we do that, I'm going to ask Lisa to start with just a really general question. Jen and I compiled some questions that we both heard actually over the years from CTE teachers in our various roles. But the very first question is, why do we need math instruction in CTE curriculums? I thought CTE was for kids to do hands-on and learn a trade or a program, a skill. So Lisa, what do you say to people who ask that?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say good morning to everybody, or good afternoon whenever you're listening to this webinar. I guess Jen and Kathy, you can see my screen at this point?
We can. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're ready to roll. That's a question a lot of teachers ask, and actually it's a lot of questions that students ask as well, because they are coming to the Career and Tech Center to learn about career and tech, and they feel it's all hands-on, and a lot of it should be hands-on. I'm a full supporter of that. It should be. But what's happening is, and I want to start with this first screen and just read a little something. I know you can see it. It says, teachers should not give too much, but should facilitate and inspire before frustration derails imagination. And I think as a CTC math coach, I think that's such a valid quote, because really that's what we're doing at CTC. We're putting them in our programs. We're allowing them hands-on. We're inspiring them. We are facilitators in our hands-on area, and we also should be in our math area as well. So I'm going to just go through a few slides to kind of warm you up and let you know why it is important to have math in this. And Bart Simpson is the biggest one. If you ever watch him on TV, he's always questioning and he's always thinking about different things and how we can do it. And there's a very cool video, if you ever get to look at it on YouTube, that Bart does a thing about math where the two trains are colliding, and you've always heard that one about math. And it's really interesting how he's thrown into the train and he doesn't understand where things are coming from, and nobody tells him that. And I think that's where we as CTC teachers have such a big impact on our students, because we have the ability to show where math is used and where it's needed. So on your screen, there's a couple people who feel math is important. And the one thing I really enjoy about my job is the fact that I'm actually in all the different areas. I'm all over my building. I go into programs. I don't teach academic math as an academic math teacher. I teach CTC math as a CTC teacher. That's what, and all of my programs, pretty much I get to about 30 different programs. It's crazy, but I ask the teachers what do they want, and really that comes from a couple areas. It comes from their OAC committees who actually tell us how important it is for the kids to measure and how important it is for those basic skills. I'm a full proponent of you need to teach the basics, and I'm going to cover that a little bit in the webinar, how it's important to teach the basics and get them into the basics as well as the algebra and the things that your home schools are pushing and teaching. Employers, they're constantly going on job interviews. We've had a couple students come back and have not done well in job interviews because they're forced to do some math before they even are allowed to interview for the job. So that's very important because that's our goal in CTC, is to get them into either post-secondary or working jobs. The sending schools have a push for all their testing and their algebra keystones and things like that. And if we can put just a little bit in our program to help students really see it, and to be honest, that's what Common Core is looking at. They're looking at this modeling, and what a better way to model than in CTC. Graduation requirements for their students. Everybody wants them to graduate. And honestly, the post-secondary options now at CTC are tremendous, so we need to make sure we're doing that as well. And the next two slides I have is something you can actually do with your students. If you look at this picture I have up, and I'm going to show you another picture, a great activity in the beginning is to show these pictures and let the students create their own math problems or come up with their own thinking. Actually, I posted these on the TV, but some teachers have actually used these posters in their classroom and actually shown them on the screen and said, write me a math problem, look what you see. And if you notice, there's motorcycles, there's cars, there's glasses, there's pens, there's protractors, there's lots of things on this that you could actually, and this isn't a real clear one, and if you're interested, I can show you a clear one. It actually is a poster. Here's another one that is a great discussion. We're always looking for those attention getters in the beginning. Put this up. You see there's a $9.99 price. This is kind of like a Where's Waldo if you're watching me and listening. There's clocks. There, you could say there's pressure gauges. There's, like I said, a protractor, a race car. If you notice, there's a back of an ambulance. So there's all kinds of speed limits. There's all kinds of ways that you can make this into a math question, and you could use this every other week and have them pull something different off. And actually, if you have them write the math problems, you can use them in your curriculum. So it's a great thing. Here's something I pulled off online, and I just wanted you to look at it. What percentage of Americans actually use math at work? And again, if you notice the large circle, most of it is basic math. It's fractions, it's multiply and divide, it's add and subtract, it's any math. But you notice there are 22% that use a little more advanced, 19 that use algebra, 14 that use geometry, statistics. The complex and the calculus, as some of you would probably say, isn't really out there as far as prevalent, but there is a lot of things that you actually can build into your program that's program specific. I don't want you to bring in statistics if you feel there is no statistics there, but I guarantee you nursing, in fact almost any area, statistics is a big part of looking at data as far as management goes. So I think it's important that you do that. Again, another poster. And these posters I can actually post online. There's a series, I'm going to show them now, and actually it's online. You can actually print these out and download them, and you can use them. I have teachers that have them hanging in their classrooms, and you can, base it on what your area is, but there's probably something for everybody there that you can use, and they're actually free to download. There's no cost involved in that. So that's pretty much why do we need math in our curriculum. I think everybody kind of knows it, but just looks at it as a background.
Thanks, Lisa. This is Jennifer. The data on the math in the workplace was very interesting. I hadn't seen that before. And just a note to our attendees that we will share a copy of Lisa's PowerPoint with you, so you'll have all these resources and all the information that she's going to be going over today. I imagine, Lisa, at this point, some of our participants, our PLC members, are thinking, that sounds great, but I'm not a math teacher. So how how can I write a good math lesson? What's important for me to include or to think about when I'm trying to incorporate more math into my curriculum? Can you talk a bit about that?
Sure. One of the things we'll talk about, and I'm going to bring these two up already, is, and I'm sure some of you have heard them. I know my teachers here always say, well, we've heard about them, but we don't see them a lot, and we need refreshers, and sometimes I send out refreshers on this. And actually, this is going to be good for my teachers here, too, because they don't get this all the time either. The NRCCTE, the 7 elements for embedding math in the CTE. And I just want to talk a little bit about those. One is introduce the CT math lesson and relate it to the content. Whenever I go into a classroom, and you are the experts here, seriously, I mean, you know, some people say, I wish I had me, but you guys are the experts, and you know math in your area. All of you do. I know. I've been in the programs of my shops. Explain why they need it, you know, and where it comes from a little bit. You don't have to, I don't want you quoting the standards, because, you know, people don't know the standards, you don't know the standards, but if you can at least say, you know, you've probably seen this in your geometry class, or you've probably seen this in your algebra class or your statistics class. Bring out something that they've seen. And, you know, one thing I've noticed with when I teach and when the teachers teach is some of these students will actually take it back to the home school. And what a better way, you know, sometimes the home schools don't listen to us as teachers because they want to do it their way. But what a better way for a student to take it back to the classroom and say, hey, here's a paper that we got at maybe you could use it. And I've had students that have done that here, and actually, although our relationship with our home school isn't great all the time, I've actually gotten into the home school with that. So that helps. So try to introduce it with just a brief terminology. Videos work great. YouTube, I know our students can't get into YouTube, but teachers can. And, you know, if you make it funny, if you make them laugh, I just did something in our public safety on stopping distance, and these kids were math geeks, and they crashed a car, and it was, you know, and they showed how it worked, and it was kind of a cute video, and they were laughing, and immediately they get our attention. There are some teachers that actually use music videos, and now obviously ones that are allowed, but also poems and things like that to pull it out. There's some great math quotes online that you can find, and if any of you are interested in any, I can gladly send you some as well that spark questions. The next thing is access math awareness, formative assessments, and I'll go into that a little more later. Could be one math problem, could be reading information, and I'll show you a little bit about some reading that I gave. Example, then this is very small. I put this up on the screen. It's almost like a Freire model, but I throw words up that might be used in the topic we're using, and it's very easy. It's for me, it's great because I don't have to prep it. So I just create these 3 words. They're vocab words, and I have the students actually walk up to the whiteboard, or you could use just a big piece of paper and write one single word about what they know about these things. And it's amazing how many things they know and how many they don't, and what you think they know and what they don't. And you can expand on those as you go. You know, units used. They might not think of 1 unit for a recipe. For recipes, they might even throw up a recipe. And for ratios, you know, showing, they may not know that a recipe uses a ratio and proportion because they're not associating those terms. So if you can just throw up this possibility and talk about it, it works really great. Here's one of those reading things that I thought was very cool, and I just found this online. It's about texting, and honestly, this seems to me like it would strictly be public safety, but really, you could relate this to auto body health or commercial design. And this is actually a very valid point for any student about texting, the fact that texting slows your stopping distance time worse than drinking alcohol. So, and students don't know that, and like I said, how would this affect auto body? If students don't follow this, you're going to, you know, How, and you could even post this on your screen. Say, how does this relate to our shop, or doesn't it? And you could talk about the fact that, well, if they text and hit a car, it's going to come into auto body. Health, more accident victims, and maybe talk about statistics. Commercial art, create awareness poster. How could we use this data and create a poster? It doesn't all have to be specific algebra math. So some more of the 7 elements. Work through embedded examples. Specific lessons you're working with. Ohm's law. I have a lot of lessons on Ohm's law and a lot of things for the auto body, the auto area that Mr. Morocco, who's our auto tech teacher, and actually Mr. Johnson, who's our auto body teacher, we've been working on quite a few lessons. And I will share any lessons with you. I will start posting those in the next week, and you can pull them right from the webinar box. So if you're specifically talking about Ohm's law for a lesson, talk about that Ohm's law look, but then a related contextual example, flip it. Flip the formula, move it around. They have to do that in algebra. That is algebra, but it's actually in your program area. It's solve for resistance instead of current that time. Work through traditional math examples, and I'll show you some T-charts. Ask your homeschools for a math book. A lot of the times they'll have math books, or I also have another suggestion is if you work with Glencoe or Pearson's, you can get sample copies of math books, and they will send them to you pretty much for free. Grab one. I'm not saying you have to use it all the time, but have it in your program area. And actually, if you have these in your program area, some of the students that might be having trouble with homeschool may even use it as a reference manual, and they're free. They will send you a free copy. And if you're unsure about that, again, you can send me emails. I help a lot of different CTCs with a lot of different things. So here's an idea. Like I said, working through Pascal's law. Here's an idea with auto body, and we have a whole series on this with auto tech, controlling the stopping of a car. If you notice at the bottom, working through Pascal's law, I actually have a tire wheel, and we're labeling diameter, radius, and shading in the area. So it's relating the tires and things with that. And this can be used, like I said, I have probably, between Mr. Morocco and I, we probably have about 6 of these series with, this is actually the look of the students' fill-in area. Okay, again, there's a math T-chart. I'll also show you a little bit more about those. Those are very cool, and they can help you get some generic problems that you can use. Again, demonstrate their understanding. There you've got it made, practical and hands-on, and a formal assessment. Here's a poster of the 8 key math practices. I'm not going to go into this too much, but again, some of our teachers, I actually gave this out as a poster to show what these key math practices are and have the students look at them. I love the pictures because students that come to us like pictures, and I like pictures. And actually, I don't even necessarily think I need to go over these because personally you do them every day. So
Lisa, that's a great reminder for teachers just to kind of, almost have as their own reference as a reminder. Those elements are really interesting. I'm going to move us along in the interest of time. Another question that we get a lot is, well, you just posted it, those basic skills. What do I do with CTE students who I'm supposed to be, my program area requires maybe some more challenging math, or even you had that chart you had showed us, I think fractions was like 68 or 70 something %, and we know that students are still struggling often with fractions. So how can I help students learn the basic skills they are lacking? How can I take easy math and create more challenging word problems to move kids forward?
Okay. I'm going to show you a slide here, and electrical, I actually have 64 of these slides and answers. I have worked with Mr. Hefner, who is now pretty much doing this all on his own, which is the goal of a coach. But take your easy questions, and if you look at this question, this is not a difficult question. It's not. It's it's difficult in the fact that you have to read it, and that's where a lot of these students struggle with the fact that, and honestly, on the Keystones on all the tests, they have trouble with the reading problems. And like I said, I keep reinforcing this, the CTC is a reading problem. That's what you guys do here. You're actually applying it. So if you take very simple math and actually apply it into skills, I think you can take your fractions and just make them, instead of just doing a 1/4 plus 1/2 all the time, put them into a question. Here's another one, and I'll give you all this information. I don't want to get carried away in explaining everything, but checkbook lessons, great way to apply simple math. Dollars and cents, subtracting, payroll, percentages. If you look at number 7, and if you look, I've got a fraction in there, time and a half. So you're putting fractions in all of this, but it's not a difficult thing. You can put difficult things in it, and this lesson I will send you, this is based on my CAD class, has some algebra in it. Again, here's another one. The productive struggle, what we did in our first time we were together up at Penn State. Create one that's easy. The ones that we did up at Penn State, they were a little more difficult. But here's a great one, and I took this from culinary. I'm trying to mix, since I'm going to be talking to all of you, but any of you can do this. Very easy math. Works in a restaurant, serving different food. The hours she worked, if you notice, I put it in fractions and in decimals. So somewhere along the line, they're going to have to convert that half to a decimal or the 0.5 to a half to add them together. And it gives you the opportunity to really talk about this. But it also puts it in a form that's a little more difficult, and they have to figure out. So you can make difficult math, easy math into difficult situations, and just keep changing the numbers up. You don't have to, every 2 weeks throw this out again and move some numbers around, so they're starting to see the flow of how you have to put these together. Extra activities. Here's a great one, and this is honestly, if you're out, if you have a substitute in, what I do with this one is I actually put them in groups of 2 and I challenge them, and I don't give them a calculator all the time. I am a fan. I know you have to use calculators at times, but you know what? In a lot of the industries, you need to work on the fly. So the fact that you want to see this stuff and you want them to practice, and the mental math gives them great skills for everything. I posted this up. Some of you may have already seen it. If you haven't, oh my gosh, great resource. Has tons of stuff. It's free. You can get all kinds of flashcards if you notice on the side. Algebra 1 things, decimals, division, papers with rulers on them. It's a fabulous site. You really, and like I said, it's free. It's absolutely free. Everything comes down in a PDF. You can change it to a JPEG. I use it all the time. Another one that, now I pay for this, but really I think it's $10 a year, and they have tons of these things on. Under the story problems for any culinary, they have some great menu things where you can just hit a button and it creates a menu, and it comes up with all kinds of sales tax information. If you notice in the miscellaneous, there's insulin dosage, there's pictures of, there's all kinds of different measurement things. If you see, there's vernier calipers, there's micrometers, there's engineer scales. To be honest, almost all of you could possibly use these things in your thing. And like I said, I think it's $10 a year. So it's really, really very cheap. The ruler game, I think a lot of you have seen this. I'm not getting too carried away with that either. Unravel. This is something I use, actually my health teachers use this a lot. Some of the other teachers have seen it. I haven't stressed it, but 2 of my health teachers think this is fabulous. So I'm just showing you a problem here, and again, you can see this. But if you start to have students that don't understand, if you give them this actual printout, and I'll show you how it works, underline the question, predict, read the word problem. And this isn't my strategy. You notice I have Larry Bell. It's online. There's actually a very cool whole PowerPoint on it. But here's something I created to show how you work with this. And it's, again, is this extremely difficult math? No. Is it math you can put in your program area? Is this something you can use with your program math? Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to help students in their algebra keystones. It's going to help them throughout. So helping to pick answers. You know, what's wrong with these A, B, C, and D answers? Well, one's way too little. One's way too large. Eliminate. Give them a 50-50 chance. You know, and that's basic skills that can also help you on your NOCD as well. So that's pretty much a good overview. I've got a lot of fraction games and things, and you'll see that throughout this presentation again.
Some great examples. Thank you, Lisa. I see that you have, looks like you have some math templates that you'd like to show to help students stay organized. And if I could ask you to briefly touch on some formative math assessment tools and how they can be used in the programs as well. Just looking at the time here, we're wanting to kind of go through those briefly so that we can get to some of the great sample lessons that you also have for us.
Yeah, and that's fine. And I won't talk about much of these. These are kind of self-explanatory. We have an Algebra 1 PLC here within our building, and we created some of these templates. And this is like a front and a back of one through teacher recommendations. They said, how can we get them to think and organize? Because a lot of the biggest problems a lot of our teachers face is the fact that they write all over the paper and they're not organized. So this gives you the ability to organize, also gives you a place. One of our teachers said, hey, I'd like a place to graph something. So if you don't use it, you don't, but it's actually on the template. Here's another one used for Cornell notes in math. I use this all the time. It keeps the students organized. Again, here's an example of dosage calculations. Formative, here's some examples of things we do here. Math teacher for a day. You know, we don't know everything. We don't. But the students are really amazing at what they do know. Let them teach. And, you know, I just had a cosmetology student. I couldn't go in the PM to help them with stuff, and I said to our teacher, pick one of the students that you think, or let them volunteer. You know, give them a little piece of candy or something if they do a good job. And she did a fabulous job, and it was great. And the students really listen to their peers. They really do. Here are some ways to journal. These are two of our instructors here in the areas you have. I set up these journal sheets for them with their names on, and I'll give you all the copies. You can adjust these. They have a welding word of the day, an SAT word of the day, and then we put math problems on. And I'm starting to create a lot of these math problems, and I'll gladly put you on the list and start sending out some of these as we go along. Our culinary teacher, Mr. Pottinger, and our baking teacher, Mrs. Murray, have created these as well. They're in Excel. There's probably about 60 or 70 of them. Again, I'll share this with you. They have given me the ability to share this. I always ask my teachers if I use their things, if I can share them. So they have said that. Every day they have this. They have set up the question already. They just have to go print it. So for any culinaries, this is great. A KWL you've seen. It's a great way to do it. An exit pass I'm sure you've seen. You know, and on the end of my exit pass, I always put a writing. You know, you can write with math as well. Why is trig so important in machine shop? Have them tell you why. And also what we're working with is we have these booklets that we're doing. And we have a booklet actually that starts our year off that looks through our student guide in the beginning of the year. And for the first 2 weeks, they can actually use it. And I've created math problems based on that as well. So there are some examples of some formative assessments that you can work through.
Lisa, this is Kathy. I'm going to jump in because it's so obvious. You have such great insight and experience, and thank you so much for being so open to share. It's great. Unfortunately, our time is wrapping up. If our participants will remember, we're not only asking you to watch this webinar for credit for this webinar, series, but we're also going to be, Lisa, I shouldn't say we, Lisa is going to be creating, if you can believe it, 6 mini 10-minute webinars so that each program area has their own webinar. So we want to keep today's webinar a little bit shorter than normal because there is another piece coming in the next 2 weeks that we'd like you to view that will take another 10 minutes. So Lisa, looking over the rest of your presentation, we want to spend about 10 minutes with some of those lesson plans. Before we get to that, if you were to have 3 or 4 minutes, what would you most like to share before we get to those lesson plans?
I think, could I just go through some of the slides and I'll just keep going?
Sure, yeah, let's see if we can get to the lesson plans in about 4 minutes. And everyone, you will be getting this PowerPoint as was already mentioned, so if you'd have any questions about any of the pieces, I know Lisa would be happy to explain them to you. Go ahead, Lisa. Sure.
Yes, and anything I have on here that looks like a lesson that you don't have the full lesson, I'll try to post it, and if I don't, send me an email and gladly say, hey, I like that slide on so-and-so. So pictures and magazines, like I said, I'm going to go through these a little quick. Discovery has a great magazine. It's called Scholastic Math, and it has great examples. It's not expensive as well. Use pictures. I did this. I put this up on my screen overall and used a picture on that, and have the students create math problems. Again, charts, a great blood pressure chart, asking some questions. What does the chart show? Graph the chart. Algebra and keystones. Again, and these I'm going to go through very quickly because there's just a lot of them. Engine displacement. Again, now that you're looking at them very quickly, Autotech uses all this. Show the comparison between a cylinder and a cylinder in a vehicle, and compare it. And like I said, I am going through these. I know I always create too much, but you can look at these. Again, here's another one. Do a map. Have them post where they're driving to. All of you in your areas probably have the fact that you have to drive to different places. So
hey, Lisa, this is Kathy. I just want to skip. Don't move your slides back, but I just want to mention something about keystones. This may seem obvious, and forgive me if I'm being too basic here, but would you say that it's worth reminding teachers that one of the things, we keep hearing integrate academics into career and tech, increase the rigor of academics and career and tech. Would you say that one of the things that teachers can do that's really important in math instruction is to give math processes that you use in your program the correct math terminology to refer to it? Am I making sense? So that if a student hears Ohm's law in their math class at their participating school and they hear the same thing from you, you're not just calling it by a shortcut name or not calling it by any name. In other words, make sure you're giving the same formality to the practices that the sending school would. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And in fact, next year, my goal over the summer is actually to create a very good list. Teachers have been asking for that correlation between the two. And that's great. That's one of my projects this summer, is to actually correlate all that. And you know what? Have students, when you're talking about Ohm's law, have students say to the students, does this look like anything in your math class? And even if you aren't sure about that, your students might be sure about that. And that's why that block in the beginning that I showed you, where I had NOCTI and ratios, and students bring a lot to the plate, to your table in your CTE, and they know as much about this as we do. In fact, I'm even surprised at some of the things that come. So allow them to do it. And again, if you need a book or if you need something, just ask. Actually, you'd be surprised. We don't have a whole lot of contact between our sending schools, but I will tell you that if I email one of the math teachers over there, they will get back to me on something. So
that's great.
You may have to do it a little bit at a time, and you may have to do it without the whole school involvement, but I would try it. You'd be surprised that, you know, even if you're not sure, send a picture of Ohm's Law and say, how does this relate? And you'd be surprised at how many math teachers would send you back and say, oh, we do this in Algebra 1 when we're moving, you know, when we're doing substitution and all the other math terms that are out there. So,
wow, that's a great way to reach out and start, you know, forming some sort of relationship with a sending school math teacher.
It is. It is. And, you know, if you can get to any of the conferences, you know, the one in November for the state really is a great conference too. So there you learn a lot of things as well, and you can take away and interact with colleagues. And I know it's an expense, and that's a struggle, but
the integration conference?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that is a great conference.
It is. So.
Thank you. Did you want? Was there anything else? Did you want to? You showed the T charts, right?
I did. I'm going to go through very quickly. They still on my screen. This is all there, and I'm just showing you some things. Here's a lesson on bacteria. Great lesson. We actually go through the school and swab the school, and then we talk about all this.
Oh my gosh, that's a great idea.
It is. It's fun. The kids love it. I actually like it because I get to do it. Here's an example, and I have this, like I said, I have these. Here's an example in Autoshop of how we use, this is actually a linear equation, and I asked them, why is this important? Because if you don't make your quota, you're not going to make your money, and you could get fired. So we do spend 5 minutes at least talking about why. I'm not in here just to do a math question. Why will this be important for you? So again, here are some things we do actually about cumulative and consecutive, and how students can't even read their manual to take home to their parents if they don't know how they calculate their sick days. So different things and how we graph it. Again, some of the things for here. Focus-free write, and you can look at this again as well. T-charts and SAS, and I'm going to spend 1 minute on this, and you can see it. Algebra 1 resources. I know everybody, you know, SAS is a very difficult to funnel through. But if you go to Algebra 1 resources, which is where everybody's focused on these Algebra 1 keystones, I have this circled here. If you look, in the resources, Electrician's Math, Cookies, Divide and Conquer, they do have some CTC math things based in here, and these are some great things, and you can go right there. The other thing I want to talk about very quick, and this is a work in progress. This just went live actually about a week ago. We are working on the math T-charts, and the new portal is up, and it's starting to have some things in it. I'm going to be working most of the summer on this as well. Here's one that actually I'm sharing because I created this one for our welding and manufacturing. I don't use these as just a T-chart, but for resources, they are absolutely fabulous, and they have all the answers on them. So, you know, you can use it. You don't have to look for things. It's really a very good resource, and like I said, I have some created for you guys. So we do a student of the quarter, fun things with math. I'm going to go through. We did the Scrabble. You did that before up at our initial. If you didn't get the tiles, I have them. Some Common Core puzzles. Do a puzzle. Put something in here like this. Here's an auto area. Here's an IT. Just a basic interest. And honestly, put these in, cut them up for the kids, and let them form groups and try to solve them. Great way to start. Use it from your book. Seriously. Here's a great activity with just multiplication that they can do. These tiles are great. They actually have these. You can buy them personally, but I just put them in and created my own tiles, and you can use them. And that teaches fractions and percentages. Get some wash lines. Our cause teacher does this. Have them hang up the wash line. Have them use wash clips, and start to organize some of your fractions in order, decimals, fractions. Password, great thing. and it runs through, and I have a whole password on just where you password different questions. And actually, we're at the lessons.
That sounds great. Okay, we're going to take just a few minutes for these, and just again as a reminder, there will be another 10-minute webinar that will have lessons and or have specific information for your program area. So these are some overall general ones. Okay, Lisa, that sounds great.
Okay, and this won't take long. We're almost there. And I'm showing some of these from some of you that I got. I didn't get a lot of them. I'm hoping to get some more as we go on. From Lehigh, here's a great lesson. She posted it. I think it's very cool on just basic fractions, which is, like I said, it has a YouTube video embedded in it. Look around the room, what fractions of chairs are in the front row. Very easy things that you can do with this. I thought that was a great food service lesson, but really you all have chairs in your room. It could be applied anywhere. Mr. Simons, Steve Simons is here, and we did a proportional wheel where I actually put pictures in so we could show them what it looked like, and we had them fill it in, and so for commercial design, this is a great lesson. And then what I did was, and again, we'll have this for you, we actually did the wheel on one side, Cornell notes, and I actually showed him the algebra on the other side. So, and again, a couple different things, reductions. And students all have trouble with this. And honestly, reductions, you almost use that similarly in the health field. Eric LeBlanc from Philadelphia sent this great thing in. This is a great, and I have this cited here, this Math and the CTE lesson plans. Oh my gosh, a wonderful website. And this is directly from the website. You can download this. It has everything in it. You can copy and paste it anywhere. And then they have
Lisa, what is that website?
I think, do I have it? No, I don't.
That's okay. We'll make sure maybe we can add that in those 10-minute ones. I never heard of that.
I thought I even put that in, but maybe I didn't. Maybe it's not there.
Okay. We'll have to get that. I'm not familiar with that. Okay. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Actually, you know what? I will. It's on another slide. Backward.
Okay.
I'll show it to you. So it's great. Tom Dietrich, our plumbing teacher here at Rennie Muhlenberg, if you have smart boards, but we can also convert these into PowerPoints, he has a series of about 25 of these where he actually does things like this, and you notice there's blanks there that you can fill in the blanks, and all of these are different problems. So there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 different problems per page. And here's another one that he did. So I'll share those with you. A lot of you can use those. Here we go. I think this is it. Yeah, this is the math. I think this is the math in the CTC. Yes, so here's an example of a welding one from there, and you'll see all the PDF files on the bottom, and there is the website. Now that's the website specifically for this welding worksheet, but it'll get you right to there, and you can go in, and there's tons of lesson plans for everything. If you haven't found it, it's a wealth of knowledge, and again, it's free that you can use. One of the last things throughout your building, do a math student of the quarter if you have any coaches. It's a great way to have teachers recommend, and we do it with the fact that we're doing it at CTC. They don't have to be brilliant at the home school, because what we're finding is the kids, some of them that are really smart here, are not getting the recognition they deserve at the home school. So this is a way to recognize your stars at CTC. I have about 80 of these series. We just did this one this past week. Actually, it's called 2-part because I have the next part where they have to cost it going on as we speak. And I'm going to show you, here's a drill bit, and I give the answer key right on the back. So I showed the teachers how to do this. And again, if you haven't seen my stuff, I'll post all those for you. There's about, at this point, I probably have 100 of them. In all kinds of areas.
Now, Lisa, I'm going to ask, just to clarify, because I know we'll get this question. When you say you're going to post things, our PLC members do not have access to the Dropbox that you have.
Okay.
So I don't know, do you have these things posted on your school website for your teachers, or?
Yes, I do. I have them in the shared drive. Now, what I can do is, if we're still looking at A lot of them are too big files to send via email. But
Right.
if we're going to meet somewhere, or if anybody wants them, what I can do, maybe not right away, and in fact we want to wait, is over the summer, if you're interested in all these, I can put them on CDs and get them mailed out to everybody if that works better. You can have everything. I don't charge for anything. I'm a teacher. I'm here to teach kids. And
that's really generous, Lisa. We'll help you with finding a way to do that. That's really generous. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I know.
No, that's fine. And I know we're on a time schedule. So we are at the final slide, by the way.
Oh. We're done?
Yeah, we're done.
Oh, okay. I thought you had something more to say.
I think I've kind of gotten into the time schedule that we wanted. I didn't want to go over.
You nailed it, and I'm sorry if I.
No, it's fine, and everybody can look at this, somewhere else. So if there's something you're missing,
I have to tell you, Lisa, I am a reading specialist by trade, as you know, and I'm going to admit it. I know it's not smart to admit this, but I am math phobic. And unfortunately, I can trace it right back to a 7th grade algebra teacher who, made us stand up in front of the room and give answers we didn't know. And I really think if I had someone like you to work with, you really make this seem doable, and you make me feel smarter about math than I think I am just in how you present things. So I wish everyone had a Lisa Hughes to work with. And we should also point out that Lisa not only has her math certification, she has her Family Consumer Science cert and her Business Ed cert. And Lisa, am I correct? Do I remember that this is teaching is a second profession for you?
It is. I was an accountant actually for many years, I guess 20 probably. And one thing I will share is when I got out of high school, I wanted to be a teacher, and my father told me there were no jobs and I couldn't do it. And he wouldn't pay for me with a brilliant math mind to be a teacher. And so I went into accounting because that was a really good profession. I got a job right out of school. In the back of my mind, I always wanted to be a teacher. And I really have to thank my dad, because about 10 years ago, he said to me, I think you should go back and be a teacher, and I will pay for it because
oh my gosh.
I didn't allow you to do that before. So I went back when my kids were older and I felt we're in pretty good shape, and I wouldn't ever go back. Some of the kids say, you were an accountant, you could be making big bucks, and I'm like, I just love what I do. There is nothing like this ever. You as teachers, I'm sure most of you feel that way. There just isn't. You can never affect a life in a cubicle. I've felt that my whole life, and it's great that people want to do that. My 2 kids are not going to be teachers, my sons, and they're doing well for themselves, and they're affecting lives there, but I don't belong there. I never did. So I'm very grateful.
That is the most touching story, and wow, your father to come back and say that's incredible. I was visiting a high school in Pennsylvania last week, and I was able to sit in on a gentleman teaching engineering, pre-engineering. He had so much passion. He was so incredible to watch for just 10 minutes, and I later found out he just retired from 30 years as an engineer, and all he wanted to do his whole life was teach, just like you're saying. And he apparently thanks the principal all the time for giving him, this is his first year of teaching, and just for giving him the opportunity to teach. I mean, that is what, it's a calling, and not everyone's aware of that. Lisa, that is a great story. Oh,
it is.
Makes me want to send your dad a nice note. That was a nice story.
It is, and you know what? Our director, Jerry Whitmer, I tell him that all the time. He probably gets sick of me. Every once in a while I send him a text and saying, you hired me. I could not have done this without you. And I am so grateful for the fact that somebody believed in me and thought I could do this. So it is.
Oh my gosh, that's a great message. I think that's a perfect note to end on. We are very frustrated, many of us. I'm out of the classroom now, but my husband's been in 30 years. I was in for years. I know that these snow days and this time of year and having lost a lot of our days off, which are sometimes really needed for mental health days, it can be a really frustrating time of year for teachers. So that's a great note to end on, that put all that aside and remember the work we're doing for kids. If we don't do it, who will? And these are the kids, I always say when I walk through CTEs, these are the kids that are going to be taking care of us in another generation. So we want them to be at the top of their game. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. To our PLC members, we started in October with a kickoff, and Lisa was kind enough to come to that kickoff, by the way, on her own time, and now she's appropriately our final speaker for this year. So Lisa's come full steps. Jen, do you have any next steps that you want to share before we sign off here?
Sure. Thanks, Kathy. And Lisa, thank you again as well for your support and all the work that you've put into this presentation today, as well as helping us out throughout the year. We really appreciate it. A couple notes for our PLC members. As Lisa has mentioned, she'll be recording some individual sessions, some brief mini webinars, one for each of your PLC groups, and she would like to share more examples that are coming directly from you, math lessons that you have, that you use in your classroom. So we're requesting that if you have not already sent something to her, please do that by April 15th so that she can collect those and put those into a PowerPoint session to share back. Lisa, did you want to note anything specific about what type of lessons you're interested in, or the format or anything?
Sure. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. I'm not looking for the Temple lesson plans. In fact, that's probably, I mean, nothing against Temple, but that's probably not what I want. I want something that is very simple, that we can put right into a program, that you can take and run with it. Even if it's just 3 PowerPoint slides, it's not. It doesn't have to be anything formal. In fact, if it's 1 PowerPoint slide of something you put up in the beginning and an idea, that's great. I am lacking in some areas. I'm really lacking in welding. I really didn't get anything from, and maybe I'm missing some. So please, if you did send them again. Sometimes the computers miss, but I am missing a lot, and I could use some help, especially in welding. Electrical, I haven't seen anything. Culinary's good. Nursing, I think I saw 1 or 2, but I haven't seen a lot, and this is for you guys. I have lots of lessons here I can probably share with you, but seriously, you guys share with each other better than anything else. So I am waiting April 15th. If you can send it in by April 15th, I know you're busy with NAFI, but just take what you have and ship it to me via email, and that's all I'm asking. You don't have to write anything up, nothing else. Even if you're giving me those 5 easy problems, I'm okay with those too. So, and then once we get those in the next week, I'll create the 10-minute videos with those and with some of the things that I have as well. We want this to benefit you. It's not benefiting us. It's actually benefiting you, and you have the ability to do that. So I guess that's it.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the final step then is to complete and submit a reflection piece. We will share with everyone via email a template for that. The reason that that's important is that will verify your participation and the fact that you viewed this session today, as well as the 10-minute mini webinar, and that will be needed for Act 48 credit purposes, and so that we can verify your participation and attendance, since this is a slightly different format than what we've done over the past few sessions. So as always, if you do have any questions or concerns about any of that, you're always welcome to contact Kathy or myself. You can use our individual emails or the PLC @Meter email that comes through to both of us. And we will follow up with everyone with an email with the information on the next steps and everything, so that you have that readily available. That's it for me. Any closing thoughts, Kathy or Lisa?
Not from me. Thank you, everyone, for your attention, and thanks again, Lisa, for joining us.
Not a problem. Thank you again. I'm good. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, everyone.